I'm Indra,
And I'm Amanda.
and we'd like to welcome you to The Messy Middle Matters. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Indra?
Good. It's our first episode.
It's our first episode.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is like a labor of love for both of us. I'm happy that this is becoming a reality, but we don't need to go bits about all that stuff. Let's jump right into what we're talking about here, the messy middle. Amanda, when you hear the words messy middle, like what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that you're doing with your family.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, or like your worst enemy, or like whoever. Like you're just doing it with a group of people that may have different ideas on how to do stuff,
Yeah.
may have different personalities,
Yeah.
and it can get messy. You all have an idea. Well, you know exactly what the goal is, right? You want to make this picture and it's in 1,000 pieces, and there are the people who want to get all the corners done first. There are the people who like want to group all the pieces by color. And it's just that's the messy part. It's the getting stuff done part that can get really like kind of tense, kind of crazy. But yeah, that's what I think of when I hear the messy middle.
I love that imagery. Are you a corner person, a sides person, like sorting by colors person? Like who are you?
I think it depends on the day, and
Okay.
it might depend on the puzzle.
That's very fair. They're so different. They're all so different.
Right. Yeah. I am usually the one who tries to, finding 4 pieces out of the 1,000, right? Okay. Like I'll look for the corners. That's it. That's where I'll start consistently.
I'm an edge person. I look for the edges. I think finding the corners is too stressful for me. I'm like, where are they? It feels like, where's Waldo? Like for me, messy middle, like the easiest thing when I'm trying to describe it to someone, like when I think about it, I think about cleaning out my closet. Like I know you and I have talked about this before, right? And like, or any sort of project like that, whether it's the refrigerator, anything, just cleaning something out and trying to, like you need to pull everything out, you need to clean it, but partway through, you're exhausted. It's all over your floor. And let's say it is the refrigerator, you need to get everything back in or else the food's going to spoil. Like, it's just like, it's all that pressure. And it's just like, I have to remind myself, I'm like, take a deep breath, Indra. It's going to be okay. Get the food in. You could always fix it later.
Yeah, the refrigerator is really stressful because yes, all of the food needs to go back in like soon. Whereas like a closet, I've definitely been one of those people who's pulled out everything out of my closet. Like I've done a few things and I'm just like, I can't today. Like I just can't. And then I just like big pile, like put it in another room or just like throw it back in the closet the way it is.
Totally. Like I love the fact that both of our examples are like regular life oriented, but they really can apply to work. And here, what we're going to talk about on the podcast is really focused on work. But before we dig into things too much more deeply, Amanda, I know that you and I worked on this because we're like the messy middle can mean so many different things. Like there is the origin story of the phrase, the messy middle. And then there's the ways that it gets applied everywhere. Just to make sure that everyone can join us on this journey, can you do me a favor and can you read out our definition that we worked on together for defining the messy middle?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The messy middle is where resilience, creativity, and adaptability are most needed and where they are often tested the hardest. It is the phase where people and teams either break down or break through. And when approached with intention, support, and the right frameworks, the messy middle can become a time of deep transformation rather than just struggle. The goal isn't to avoid the messy middle. It's to navigate it with tools, strategies, and communities that make it more manageable, meaningful, and ultimately successful.
Can I tell you? Okay, I love that definition. Like, I know it's ours, but it worked. We were so hard on finding like the right words for it. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, words are so hard.
Words are hard. I think that's our next episode. We'll tell everyone about words being hard because I think that but like when I'm sitting here thinking about like giving the words a definition and giving it shape. And by the way, you can find if you're looking for the definition, you can go to our website, themessymiddle.com. It's on there right now. It's a PowerPoint that you can take a look at, or actually Google Slides. But on one of those slides, you can find that definition. But yeah, no, definitions are so important, and like getting to this so that we could really ground ourselves in what we do, and working through this, I think, is really important. So, you know, I'll start by telling a little bit about myself. So we told everybody a little bit about the messy middle. They're probably wondering, who are these two women? They might know one of us, maybe not. Maybe they don't know either of us. But tell a little bit about myself and why the messy middle kind of matters to me, and why I feel like this is a topic I really want to talk about. So the reality is I've lived it over and over again, in all different ways, in all different shapes and forms. When I think about my time at TD Ameritrade, there are lots of messy middles, but the one that comes to mind is like trying to break that glass ceiling. Guess what? Failed, but that's okay. That's okay. I lived, I learned. At WeWork, I was there during its blitz scaling period. It was wild. And there, like, that WeWork was, when I was there, was like one big messy middle, because every single time you would create something, by the time you got it live, whether it was a product or a process or anything, team structure, it was already obsolete. So it's like, oh, we need to fix it again. So like that was a constant messy middle and constant fixing and breaking, which is great. It's part of scaling process in a startup. At Verizon, like the messy middle was like there were teams that had been brought together but hadn't really like solidified, and helping to get those teams into being a fractured organization into a unified one. Like that's another version of the messy middle. So that's how I know the messy middle, or just some examples of how I know the messy middle. And like when I think about the messy middle, like the feeling that I often get, like when I'm in the messy middle, I'm like, oh, why did we start this project? And then I pause and I take a breath. I'm like, no, this is totally worth it. And we move on. And, one of the things that we've been highlighting as part of that one of the key things of getting through a messy middle, and again, I'm telegraphing into what we're talking about next time, but is not we're using jargon. I think, Amanda, you and I love being plain spoken as much as we can. We love a fancy word too, but we don't want to alienate anyone along the way. So what we're going to do with everyone is make sure that we're doing our best to bring everyone along for the ride. So like, that's a little bit about me, my background, why I'm so passionate about the messy middle. Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, and by the way, I'm in New York, so I think that's important since we're on a podcast, just to give everyone a sense of where we are in this crazy world of ours. Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why the messy middle matters to you?
Yeah. I mean, like you, I have experience with the messy middle. I've spent the last decade or so in it, just in it at
Mhm.
all, at companies of all shapes, all sizes, all industries. Like I
Mhm.
have worked at, a big corporation like NBC, Comcast, NBC, Universal, I think is the order of the company names. Yeah, huge. And I've worked at like startup, like Series B startups.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that despite like, no matter how big or small the company is, no matter what stage the company is in, they all have similar problems, especially like when you dive into something. It's like you start something cool and then like you have an end goal, cool. But the middle is where things, I mean, back to our definition, where things can break down or break through.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I've seen it all, or I haven't seen it all. I've
Seen a
seen a
lot.
lot.
You've seen a lot. Yeah.
I've seen a lot. And yeah, like I've been the first technical program manager at a startup, like working with blank space, right?
Mhm.
I've been, like I said, working at a big corporation where I'm just like teeny tiny cog in big corporate machine. And yeah, I've honed my skill of adaptability, I think
Mm.
is the bold underline like TLDR
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
of
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
experience and like who I am and why this matters.
I love that. I love that. So many things are coming to mind, but we've got an agenda and I'm going to stick to it because we're going to keep these podcasts tight, right? So, just a little bit more about like what we're trying to do. So now you know why we care about the messy middle, but why did we create a podcast? Yay, that's the big question. So it's really about like highlighting like the messy middle in a workplace is stuff that usually doesn't get the spotlight. People don't talk about it. They talk about it. They talk about it in a hallway. They talk about it in a supply closet. They don't talk about it on like the big keynote stage of the town hall for the company, like, or they rarely do, right? It's sort of the stuff that is so necessary, but just really doesn't get the light of day. I mean, I don't know, Amanda, if you have anything else to add to like a little bit about that, the why and the what's of what we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. It's the conversations that are had like on the side,
Mhm.
right? And then we all realize that we've all had similar experiences and it's like, why aren't we talking about that? Um, just I don't want to spoil the
Yeah,
topics
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
everyone, but yeah, there are a lot of times where, you feel like you're alone and you're just like frustrated about a thing and you vent to your work bestie and they're like, yeah, I've experienced that same thing. Like you're not alone. We let's try to work through this together. And I think that's how you and I ended up on this journey together too. It was just like a passing, like, hey, I noticed this thing. Like, how about you?
Amanda and I used to work together, by the way, just so that everyone knows. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But yeah, totally.
Yeah, we used to work together, and I realized that you said that you were in New York, and I was just like, mental note, I need to say where I am. I'm in Denver, but I used to live in New York.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that the other thing about the messy middle, like in a workplace, when the messy middle breaks, like, no one talks about it. No one wants, like, executives have no interest in the time of day about it for the most part. I don't want to be, yeah, I'm generalizing here, but like, but when it breaks, everything falls apart. So, like, it's whether it's a person messy middle or a system messy middle or a project messy middle or whatever messy middle, when it breaks, it's sort of like the glue that holds it all together. So, I'm just really excited that we're going to be able to shine this light on the people that are making things happen, the systems that are making things happen, create a community for, like you said, Amanda, like it's these things that are happening in these small little pockets, and people often don't have someone to commiserate with or talk to. And I'm really big on finding your community, even if it is a virtual community, and I pretend like that person's my friend and I listen to them on a podcast. I got a bunch of those. And like working through that. So we'll be sharing like real stories. We'll be having guests on, subject matter experts on topics, along the way. We'll, share tools and strategies, and yeah, a whole bunch of different things. So I'm just super excited, Amanda. I think that I'm excited also for people to listen to our next episode, where we'll be digging into the details of the messy middle and why it really should matter to everyone, and where we usually start when we find ourselves in the messy middle. Like, there's one thing that I think rose to the top when we were talking to each other. We're like, we need to do that.
Oh yeah, totally. We're just like, we need to do this, and this needs to be like the anchor, the starting point.
100%, 100%. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this ride, our first episode. We're really, really excited. And we hope that you'll join us next time on The Messy Middle Matters. Bye.
Bye.